Hello and welcome to another BLENDERSUSHI tutorial on animation nodes. Today I'll be covering how we could create like some kind of ribbon generator using animation nodes. It's actually quite simple to do, and you probably already know how to do this somehow. Um, However, we will be also covering animation nodes and group nodes. It's similar to loop, but with group you can kind of encapsulate it a small subprogram inside your programs. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. Let's just have a look. Okay, like normally, like usual, we started with this default layout, and I always change this to compositing. Since I'm not gonna be using this part too much, I'll just hide this. And as you yeah, okay, let's as you already know, like for more advanced Blender user, they will know that the layout of Blender is really customizable. So I'll do that. I'll just turn this part into one, turn this merge this part, merge that part, merge that part, and now we have just like a single view. But we actually need top. I'm gonna make it top and bottom. So we have the 3D view at the bottom, and we have the node editor at the top. Yeah, this is actually the layout that I use a lot when working using animation nodes. Right, so let's get started. Like usual, I will hide the lamp and the camera. Press M, press 2 to move it to layer number 2. You're left with this cube. And let's create a new node 3. Okay, to create the ribbon, we only need a few nodes actually, and they are the wiggle node and a spline, like a spline node. It's really simple. I'll show you, I'll take you along how we can create it. So if, as you know, if you use like a wiggle, vector wiggle here, and we move our object using the vector, I'll select our cube, and using this thing, since the vector wiggle will output like a kind of like a noise kind of value from frame to frame, it will generate it for you. So it will wiggle the cube if we increase the evolution. We already know this, we've seen this a lot. And you can plug in the frame number. And okay, we actually need the playback. Let's see. I'll leave this part as a text editor, and we can have our playback timeline here. Here you go. We have like a wiggling cube. In order to create a ribbon, I actually will kind of trace the points, each point of each frame, and as a result, the traced path will be our ribbon. And that's actually kind of simple, but you need to understand a few concepts behind it. So once again, the vector will be generated on the fly on each frame, but we can't really see it, right? And if we actually debug this thing, you either create a debug node, See, it's generating. It's auto generating vector for each frame. There is actually a shortcut. I want to show you a really cool shortcut. It's a pie menu shortcut. If you hold a node and press W, you get this context pie menu. And if you click on the debug, it automatically creates the debug node for you from that vector output. Yes, so wiggle nodes will move your objects like that. But what we want to do now is to create a loop that will contain the vector and put it inside a list. So we have like a list of points that we can use to create our spline ribbon. Let's do that. Let's get rid of this, get rid of that. We don't need the debug now. We have just the vector wiggle. And we actually, if I press W, oh no, we cannot do that. I thought we're gonna have like a loop menu right here. Anyway, let's create a loop. And this will be our ribbon points generator. Let's save this for now. And ribbon generator. Okay, and I could talk about iterator, parameter, and generator output in depth, but maybe for some other time. For now, I'll just we will use the loop to create to generate vector for our ribbon, basically. So we're gonna have a vector list, right? Vector list, and we'll plug in the vector output from vector wiggle into that thingy, and let's see if we plug in the index into the seed. Let's see what we're gonna have here. Ribbon points. If we debug this thing, as you can see, for each iteration, depending on the value of iteration you provide, it will generate a vector, and we could actually use those points to create spline for our ribbon. I'll get rid of the default cube. Let's look under spline menu, create from points, and it's doing something, we just cannot see it yet. Spline object output, spline, plug it into spline. Alright, click and magic. Now you see, you kind of it's kind of doing something and on the screen, and if I increase the iterations, it will continuously generate points for our ribbon. It doesn't look like ribbon because at the moment I intentionally doing it wrong by plugging in the loop index into the seed, which means for every point generated, it will reset itself and randomly create a ribbon somewhere else. What you really want is actually to plug in the index into the evolution and cut that. And now if I increase the iteration, I create something that's more eye-pleasing. It's more like a ribbon. It's smooth and it's kind of like a scribble as well. I like the effect so much. I might have done this using Sverchok in the past, but it requires a different kind of thinking. This this is much simpler, and I really like it. It doesn't mean Sverchok is like super complex compared to animation nodes. It's just with Sverchok you go deeper with with the with the nodes, and Sverchok can do more amazing thing as well, like animation nodes. Animation nodes just um, it's just different kind of thinking. It's just a lot of loops and could be easier to understand. Sverchok also use loop and list a lot, but well, both are cool, and if they can be merged, it will be really awesome. But maybe in the future. So index goes into evolution. You can multiply it or do whatever there, up to you. We don't need to see this list anymore. I can cut it. So with 450 iterations, I get something like that. And we can actually take advantage of the seed. For every seed, it will generate different kind of ribbon or scribbles. Yeah, that's pretty much how you could create a ribbon. Nope, but nope, we don't stop there. We will do something more, and I will show you how we can use group concept in animation nodes, so that let's say you want to give this to like other artists, right? And you want to make it easy for them to make changes. You can do that with using group. Uh, I'll just show you. So Shift A and go underneath subprograms and get a group. Let's call this ribbon. The color at the moment I'm getting like a green color, but for every loop and group I tend to give it a different color. This is just to keep you sane. Use network color and change it to something else. Let's use blue for now. Oh, by the way, with the ribbon here, if you use the bevel depth, increase it, you get something that's more like a pipe. And you might also notice the weird artifact like that. That's probably, it might be animation nodes limitation on how it generates the bevel for spline, but I think that can be fixed by using other nodes. I'll take a look at that later if I write down the articles on this topic. But I just want to show you, if you use the bevel depth and turn on the bevel resolution, increase it, you'll get something that looks like a pipe. You might like that, but we'll leave that as an option for user. Or you could also use the bevel, extrude bevel, start bevel, and extrude. I like the extrude because it gives you something that's more like a ribbon. See, it's just like, it's flat, but it's following the direction of our spline. We're gonna leave that for options, and okay, leave that on. If you have bevel start and end, you can animate the ribbon really fast. Doesn't need to generate the points. The points are already there, and you just need to animate the bevel ends. Alright, so with our ribbon group input, if I invoke the subprogram, I got the ribbon, but it's got nothing. But group is actually really cool. Let's say it's kind of, you're giving the user power to generate the nodes that you have set up there. like that, and you're giving them, you tell them what to control. For example, for the ribbon, you have these iterations that you want give access to the user all the time. So this is the cool part. We actually just plug that in backward into the group input, and it will create it for you. As we know, the iteration is actually an integer value, just like seed or index is an integer full number. That, and now we have iteration right there, and we also want to give access, give user access to the object. Let's plug in the object. That's gonna be the output, and for now I might give the extrude as well. Okay, let's see. Let's see with other parameter. The seed actually, you might want to have the seed, give access to the seed up there, but if you try plugging to there, you will get an error. Yeah, you can't do that. You basically need to plug the seed into the parameter like that, and now that you have the seed in here, you can plug that in there, right? And let's just save it. Now we actually have our ribbon right here. If I create a curve object, just a normal Blender curve object, and AN has nothing to do with it, but if we select that and then we grab it, you see how it turns into like a ribbon, and you can play around with the seed, I believe. And that's actually like a whole new entity as it is. So that's really cool, right? So you actually have one node. You don't need to think about anything right happening here. You just have a single node that will create a ribbon for you, and the ribbon can be just 100 points length. You can play around with the seed. If you want to give access to the bevel to for the user, you just plug that in, and also that. So now the user can animate the curve. In a way, we kind of it's a small steps to create like a AN trace node probably. Like I've been trying to do this using Python, and I actually managed to do that, to do this tracing using Sverchok as well up to a certain point. But using AN is kind of, I like how elegant this node is. It's a subnetwork of loops, and the group is kind of encapsulating everything up there. And if you like, let's say, so we have one curve, let's create another curve. This is just a normal, like a normal Blender workflow. You create an object here and then work on it. But since we have our ribbon node ready, we can just grab that curve, and it becomes, once again, it becomes a new curve. That's really cool, right? So I might show you one more thing. Get rid of that. Oh, 1 second, I got a phone call. Um, Yeah, just ignore that. It's just like a spam phone call. So we have our ribbon, but since we are using animation nodes, perhaps we can just generate the ribbon on the fly as well. Yeah, so we don't create a curve one by one, but we want to generate a lots of curve on the fly. Let's say so we have our ribbon here. Let's see how we're gonna do this. I believe we need an object instancer. Yep, object instancer, and the object instancer will be let's leave it as a mesh for now. So we can see the dots, see, and see. Okay, we have our ribbon group is blue color. We're gonna use another loop because the loop will iterate over our object instancer, like here, right here. You see how it has this 50% opacity right there that I want to plug in into the loop. Yeah. Let's see, let's call this ribbon cloner, and let's grab our let's invoke our subprogram ribbon cloner with a clone. We're gonna clone our objects. I mean, we're gonna iterate over our object instancer. Like at the moment we have 5 instances right here, but you can't see it because each one of them is on a 0. And wow, let's see, object output, object transform, output, and for every object we will transform the X like so. So now we have 5 instances. I like to use this mesh data, like an empty mesh data, because we can see the dots. They are really useful for visualizing your clone. And so we can use a multiply number. Wait a minute. We just need the index value and then we multiply it. So see, we can adjust the distance between object instances. But that's not what we want. We want a curve, right? We want a curve objects, and it's a curve 3D. It's a curve 3D. It's generating this empty blank object, and I believe what we need to do is just plug in the objects into our ribbon generator, and voila. So we have our 5 ribbons generated from up there, and you can have more, of course. And what's really cool, you can plug in the index into the seed, and it will generate all these 6 different, let's see, extrude, iteration 100, 6 different curve, and they're all unique and different, and you can still animate it. All right, and you can create more, of course. Yeah, so that's how you do it. Really, really simple. You just need to get around and understand the concept of looping and grouping and using another loop and generate those curves. Now, of course, you're not limited to just like a ribbon in this case. It can be anything actually. And I still don't know yet the limitations, but for now I'll continue exploring animation nodes, probably ask for Jax for some advice as well. And look at the forum. If you go to Blender Artists forum for animation nodes, you will see one really big like a post on animation nodes. It's over 1,000 posts now, and they have lots of examples right there. They are quite, I say, they're quite more advanced sometimes. If a really like a if a really clever developer or artist create a complex AN tree, sometimes it's hard to go backtrace and understand the nodes tree, but you can actually learn from that as well. But I think the best way to learn this is just to try it yourself, and while learning maybe Python, it will help you both way somehow. Hard to explain, but yeah, that will work. And so what I'm trying to do is just one more thing, just by using math. Instead of multiply, it's going to be add. You need more space. And my computer is really slow. Index, if we plug in the index over there and have our own integer index over there, plug this into the seed, I can basically seed kind of offset the seed, and so another level of control. So we have our ribbon. Hopefully you enjoy this tutorial, and until next time, bye.